So let's see. Yeah, today we're gonna do go over the chapter, the material. Tomorrow we do some hands-on, and Friday we'll have the test. Okay, and Monday we're gonna start chapter 7. So we need to start accelerating a little bit. Okay, so this is a topic called ether channel. Oh, let me record this one. Oh, I didn't need it. Okay. So we need to understand what ether channels means. We need to do how we can configure it and how we troubleshoot. So ether channel operations, which means what? They call it link aggregation. What does that mean? Simply, it means we can select a physical port and we combine it into a logical port. So it is going to look like as one link. So all what this means is a link aggregation. And the reason, because we talked about chapter 5, how we create redundancy by using multiple links or multiple paths, or we can have a multiple leg. So if one fail, then we have alternative path to whatever we're going to destination. Now, with this one here, if I have two links, for example, if I have gigabit 0/1 and gigabit 0/2, okay, those two physical ports, I can combine these two physical ports as one logical port. So at this point, how the STP is going to see that? The STP is going to see that as one link, okay? So you don't need, at this point, the spanning tree protocol in between those two. Why? Because I combined two physical into one logical. So it's going to see it as one wire, not two. So, and that's what they're talking about here. Link aggregation technology is needed that allow redundant links between devices that were not blocked by STP. And this technology is known by ether channel. Well, they have different names for it, but this is one of them, ether channel. So ether channel is a link aggregation technology that groups multiple physical Ethernet. So now they talk about multiple physical Ethernet or gigabit, doesn't matter. And the reason why, you need to enhance the bandwidth, and this is one way you enhance the bandwidth. So it has a multi-purpose. So I don't need to go, for example, buy expensive 10 gigabit ports. I can use the existing switch. And it doesn't matter if it's fast Ethernet or gigabit. I can combine multiple ports into one. This way is going to give me some kind of fault tolerance, and it's going to give me load balance, and it's going to give me what we call it, free loop or loop-free technology. Loop-free means what? I don't need to use STP at this point. And the reason why, because STP is going to see it as one link. It's true, it's connected to two physical ports, like gigabit 1, gigabit 2, for example. But it's seen as one if I do ether channel. Logically is one. So, and that's what they're talking about right here. So ether channel is a link aggregation technology that groups multiple physical Ethernet links together into one single logical link. So out of the result of this, if we do this, okay, what's the advantage? Why? What we going to get out of this? Well, we're going to get fault tolerance, load balance, and I'm doubling or tripling or whatever my bandwidth. For example, I know on the 2960 we have only what? 2 gigabit ports. So if I combine two of it into one, I'm going to have 2 gigabit instead of 1 gigabit. Same thing, if I'm combining 8 or 6 fast Ethernet together, I'm going to have a 600 or 800 megabits per second instead of 100 megabits per second. So that's the idea. So basically, I'm increasing the speed between the switches. Especially, this is good when you have like a trunk port, for example, in here. So especially when you communicate with the distribution layer switches, this is we call access layer. This is distribution layer on network design. So over here, I'm creating redundancy, load balance. I'm enhancing my bandwidth in here. Let's see. What is this notation? Yeah. Well, pin maybe. Let's red. See that? So I'm doubling it, double the speed. I'm getting double the bandwidth between the two switches, and I'm creating load balance. And the most important part is loop free, because STP is not going to see this one as two connections. It's going to see it one logical connections. And that's what the most important part. And the Ethernet technology was originally developed by Cisco as a LAN switch to a switch technique for grouping several Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet point into one logical channel. And now we're going to talk about the rules. What rules you need to follow in order to implement such technology. So we'll get that in a second. Now, what's the advantage of that? We already talked about it. So one of the advantage, I'm using my existing switches. I'm not buying another switches with high ports or faster ports. Okay, so and that's what say Ether channel rely on existing switch ports. So I'm not gonna buy new ones. There is no need to upgrade the link to a faster and more expensive connection to have more bandwidth. So what I'm going to do in this case, I'm gonna combine multiple physical ports into one logical port. Now, we talked about it in a few minutes ago. What's the advantage of that? I'm gonna create a load balance. Means I'm sending information on both ports. So I'm doing the traffic instead of having one lane. Now I have two lanes or multiple lanes. That's basically what we mean by load balance. So I'm sending information. If I put gigabit 01 and gigabit 02 in one Ether channel, I'm going to send information on gig 01, and I'm sending also information on gig 02. You follow? That's a load balance. And the advantage of that also, now I have 2 gigabit bandwidths between the two switches, which is pretty much like sometimes they call the backbone, or if you talk about it from a network design perspective, we can enhance the bandwidth between the access layer and the distribution layer without changing anything. And the most important part of all this, I don't have to worry about the spanning tree protocol. Where I need to block, where I don't need to block. Why? Because STP is gonna treat it as one link. Now, question: what happened if I have a gigabit 01 and gigabit 02 combined into one logical channel? What happened if I lose gigabit 01? Nothing will happen. That's why it's fault tolerance, because I still can send information and receive information on a gigabit 02. You follow? That's basically the advantage. So at this point, it'll be better, instead putting like two link, it'll be better to use the Ether channel. So because it has a lot of advantage. And that's the most important part right here. Ether channel provide redundancy because the overall link is seen as one logical connections. So the loss of one physical link with the channel does not create a change in the topology. You follow? It's like, for example, I was having a car and I have two wheels. I lost one wheel, but still my car is running on one wheel. Okay, so especially if you see those big trucks in the back of the 18 wheelers, in the back part of it, they have two wheels on each side. So if one wheel gets bad, okay, they still can go, you know. That's redundancy. On top of redundancy, we have what? Fault tolerance. And we have what? And the most important part is load balance. And we're still using the same equipment. I don't have to go and update it. Question at this point. Let's see. Are you guys sleeping there? Let's see. Who we have on the call? Okay.
I'm up.
Well, always Brandon is responding. How
Good
about
to
the
be on.
rest of y'all? You guys okay? I guess.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Any question about this one? That makes sense?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the implementation on and restriction on this. Of course, everything you need to do, you need to follow some kind of guideline or rules. What do you think do we need in order to implement Ether channel? Can, for example, combine gigabit 0/1 with fast Ethernet 01?
No, they gotta be
The
the
answer is
same.
no. They have to be on the same speed, right? And also they have to be on the same duplex.
Mm-hmm.
And also they have to be on the same VLAN. You follow? So those are some of the rules that you need to follow in order to and also the port has to be in consecutive, I think, consecutive order. So, and that's what they say, like interface type cannot be mixed. For example, fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet cannot be mixed with a single channel. It's apple and oranges. It's different speed. So we cannot establish Ether channel this way. Now, currently, Ether channel can consist of up to 8 compatible or compatibility configure fast Ethernet ports. So I can select fast Ethernet 1 through 8, and I can put them on Ether channel, and I'm going to have 800 megabits per second. Or I can have 8 gigabit ether channel between one switch and another switch. And usually, especially if you have, when the new switches, they have a gigabit instead of fast Ethernet. So that's a lot of speed, 8 gigabit ports. And with this one here, it has a lot of advantage. What's the advantage? Oh, I'm creating load balancing and enhancing the bandwidth and loop free. STP can see it as one node. And that's what they're talking about. Cisco Catalyst 2960 layer 2 switch currently support up to 6 ether channels. So you can do 6 ether channels. The individual ether channel group member port configuration must be consistent on both devices. If the physical ports of one side are configured as trunk, the physical port on the other side must also be configured as trunk. And they need to be on the same native VLAN. You cannot have, like, for example, one on native VLAN 99 and the other on VLAN, native VLAN 1. So they have to be in the same. And they have to be configured as layer 2 ports. Like, for example, on the multi-layer switch, we can change the port into no switch access, no switch port. So it has to be all on layer 2. Each channel has a logical port channel interface. Configuration applied to the port channel interface affects all physical interfaces that are assigned to that interface. So that's the rule. So that has to be on the same VLAN, same speed, same duplex. If it's trunk, it has to be trunk on both sides, and so on. So auto negotiation protocol. This is like, remember we talked about last time about auto, desirable, trunk. So they have something similar here. Okay. So ether channel can be formed through negotiation. Use one of the two protocols: port aggregation protocol, which is this developed by Cisco, and we have the link control protocol, LSCP, link aggregation control protocol. And they follow some kind of IEEE standard. Okay. So it doesn't matter. If you have a Cisco switches, you can use BACP. Now, if you have a mix of switches, you cannot use BACP because BACP does not support it on non-Cisco switch. So in this case, you need to use a link aggregation control protocol, LCP. So, and that's what we're talking about. It's a Cisco proprietary protocol. They use that ether channels. And once you establish that ether channel is going to be managed, and you're going to send like a message every 30 seconds to check for the configuration and consistency of the link. So if you have a non-Cisco switches, however, you're going to use the link aggregation control protocol, LACP. Now, this is the rules. If you want to do that ether channels, especially when it comes to trunking, you have to put them in the different modes. The modes of BACP as follow. On, if you put on one side, this mode forces the interface to channel without PAGP. Interface is configured on mode. Do not exchange what? BACP packets. You need to put one on and the other one desirable. Desirable means BACP mode places an interface in an active negotiating state. in which the interface initiates negotiation with other interfaces by sending PAG packets. Now, auto, BGP auto is automatically auto. That means it's going to be like a passive. Now, the word passive in here, it doesn't mean bad. It means it's good. Okay? It means everything is running smoothly. So PGP mode places an interface in a passive negotiating state in which the interface responds to what? Back-P packet that is received but does not initiate PG negotiation. So they have a table, which is right here. If you have a switch 1 and switch 2, and this is the mode on, the channels establishes yes. If you have one on and desirable or auto on the other one, establish is no. If desirable, yes. Desirable, auto, yes. Auto, desirable, yes. Auto, no. So, and this is basically, it's very, 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 very important. So if we put on, then we're going to establish negotiation between the two. Now, on desirable or auto, which is no. So I think we need to find a way which was better. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can remember 4 of them, or you can remember 2 of them. So if it's on one side, desirable / auto on the other side, no channel will be established. And also if it's auto, no. All the rest will be yes. So it's easy to remember those no's because you have 2 of them. That's easy. Auto means no. On, auto, undesirable, also no. So that's if we're using the PAGP. Now, on the link aggregation control protocol, LACP, they kind of use a different thing, different terminology. And somebody said, okay, can we tell which we're using, PAGP or LCP? And the answer is yes, from these terminology, because they use a different terminology in the other one. Let's see. Okay, the following guideline and restriction are useful for configuring Ether channel. We already talked about that. So Ether channel support, all Ethernet interfaces must support Ether channel with no requirement that interfaces be physically, you cannot be physically contiguous. So no requirement that the interfaces be physically contiguous. So that means what? You can select as long as they're the same speed from a different ports. Doesn't have to be in sequence. That's what that means. Speed and duplex, you cannot mismatch them. They have to be the same. Same speed and same duplex. Pretty much like if you're doing Ether channels, I don't see why you want to do half duplex. Speed, yes, it has to be the same speed. Like, for example, I cannot put fast Ethernet with gigabit or so. And also, they have to be on the same VLAN, which makes sense. How are you going to combine 2 ports from the different VLANs? They carry different traffics. Unless if you configure that link as a trunk. The trunk carries all VLANs, unless if you specify. And that's what they're talking about here. VLAN match. All interfaces in the Ether channel bundle must be assigned to the same VLAN or be configured as a trunk. This is the most important part, why we use Ether channels. To use them as a trunk, especially between the layer 2 access layer the access layer and the distribution layer. Range of VLANs, Ethernet channels support the same allow range of VLANs on all the interfaces in a trunking Ethernet channel. It's like it's a trunk, okay? If it's trunk, you can treat it as one link if you want. So you can say allowed range of VLANs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can say just 1 and 10. Okay. Somebody have a question?
No, sir.
Okay. So if the allow range of VLAN is not the same, the interfaces do not form an Ether channel. That's a very, very, very important. So think about a trunk. If you establish a trunk on S01, for example, on switch 1, and you say on switch 1, allow VLAN 1, 2, and 3. Then you go to the other side of the channel on switch 2 and you say allow VLAN 10, 50, and 60. In this case,
I'm
we're
not gonna be
not
able to.
going to establish Ether channel. It has to carry the same VLAN. And that's what they're talking about here. The interface does not form an Ether channel, even when they are set to auto or desirable mode. So it doesn't matter. And that's what they're doing here. See that? That's the two switches. You can combine whatever speed, 1 gig, duplex full, VLAN 10, same thing. So in this case, yes, we can, because they all use the same speed, same duplex, and same VLAN. Well, I can see why people want to use, for example, if you're not using a trunk and you want to create fast Ethernet, Ether channel on VLAN. Now, why you want to do Ether channel on just VLAN? Maybe some VLANs have more traffics and they need to establish like a fast bandwidth in between them. So in this case, yes, it's a good idea to configure Ether channel on both of them. So the most important part is to understand the concept with Ether channel. Basically, we selecting physical ports and make them as one logical port. We selecting multiple physical ports and combine them into one logical. So that's the main idea. So they talk about the LACP configuration example. You are in the S1, you say interface range, path Ethernet 0/1, 2. See that? That's the range. So I'm selecting 2 ports on S1, FA0/1 and FA0/2. Then I want to combine them into one. I'm going to say channel group 1 mode active. So I'm going to make it active. Okay, then I'm going to interface port channel 1. You notice that? Now this is like it's one interface, becomes like one interface. And the interface name is interface port channel 1. It's like you're saying in the past, interface gigabit 0/1. Switch mode trunk. Switch trunk allow VLAN 1, 10, and 20. So in this case, we're going to interface port channel 1. What's a port channel 1? It's a logical port. It's not physical. The interface port channel 1 is basically the combination of fast Ethernet 0/1 and fast Ethernet 0/2. That's what it is. So we select that port, and after it's selected, we apply the same rule as a physical port. We say switch mode trunk. We need to make it trunk. And you can go switch port, trunk, allowed, VLAN 1, 2, and 20. So if you don't want to specify specific VLAN to pass, I will ignore the last command, okay? Because by default, it's going to carry all VLANs. But if you want that particular channel to carry specific VLAN, okay, then we're going to put switch port trunk allow VLAN 1, 2, and 20. If I don't put the last statement here, what's going to happen?
All VLANs.
All VLAN, that's right. Because the trunk port does not belong to any VLAN. Trunk port does not belong to any VLANs. All right. How we doing on time?
Not
Okay.
about 30 minutes.
Yeah. So this is the rule. Specify the interface that compose the ether channel using interface range. Interface global configuration mode command. The range keyword allow you to select several interfaces and configure them all together. That's why it's better to do that range. And then you say channel group. You need to call give it a name, channel group. And you need to put a mode, the mode active. And after that, you go and select that interface and you can configure it whatever you want to do with it. If you want to make it, for example, trunk, you go interface port channel 1. Channel group 1, port channel 1. And after that, you can say switch mode trunk. So that's how you configure it. Let's see. Troubleshoot. We're gonna do that. Verify channel. Usually to verify, you do show interface port channel. You show ether channel summary to tell you what port involved in it. Switch interface ether channel. Or show interface ether channel so you can see all that stuff. This is like for troubleshooting and identifying. So what's the common issues? You should know that by now. When we say common issues, basically you're not following the rules. If you don't follow the rules, basically what? You're gonna have a problem. What's the rule says? Well, first of all, they have to be the same speed. They has to be on the same VLAN. They need to carry the same VLAN if you're doing it, if it's trunk. And if we have auto and desirable, according to whatever, what is it? What is that little right here? So if it's auto, what is that? Which one is that? Okay, this, oh, we didn't see that. Did we see that yet? Okay, you see, this is LACP. They don't use auto and desirable. If it's on and on, yes. If it's on, active or passive, no. Active, active, yes. Active, passive, yes. Passive, active, yes. Now, if I'm using the Cisco, Pack P, this is going to be a little bit different. The on is the same, but on, and the other one is what? Desirable or auto?
Passive.
You got no. And if you have, what else? Let me. You always need to look between this one and compare this one and the one with the this. You follow? If it's auto, no. So that's what I was telling you. You can tell if I'm using PAGP versus LCP. So that's the screen for the Cisco one. To establish ether channel between the two, you have to configure them this way, on and on. Well, what's the common in between them? Both of them has on and on. So to be on the safe side, you put on and on, doesn't matter. Now, on the LCP, okay, you have active or active passive or passive active. So any of these combination, 1, 2, 3, 4 is gonna establish that ether channel. So if I have a desirable, it means automatically means what? What kind are we using? We're using Cisco if it's desirable. Yeah. Um, we already talked about this one. Common issues right here. So all interfaces within the Ether channel must have the same configuration of speed. We already determined that. That means is either all of them is going to have fast Ethernet or all of them is going to be gigabit. Either way, but we cannot mix the speed and we cannot mix the duplex and we cannot mix the VLANs. Okay, so that's the rule. Number two, if you configure them as a trunk, they need to carry the same VLANs. Now, if the allowed range of VLANs is not the same, the port do not form an Ether channel, even when BACP is set to auto or desirable mode. So it doesn't matter. Why? Because they have to carry the same VLANs. Now, the dynamic negotiation options for BACP and LACP are not compatibility configured on both ends of the Ether channel. So it has to be the same. So if you're using LSCP, you have to follow the LSCP rules. If you're using the PAGP, you have to follow PACP. You cannot configure one side LACP and the other side PGP. You cannot do that. Okay, so the figure interface FA002 on switch S1 are connected with an Ethernet channel. However, the Ether channel is not operational. Well, so verify the Ether channel summary information. So what do we do? Show Ether channel summary. D down, B bundled. Okay, what do we see?
So if you would switch
Fail to allocate aggregation. So not in use, minimum links met, not met. Not in use, minimum links not met. Not in use port aggregate. Yeah, you have one port. You didn't have two. Oh, let's see. Let's see what they say here. Okay, so interface port channel 1, switch trunk allow VLAN 1 and 20. 1, 2, and 20, switch port mode trunk, which is good. Interface fast Ethernet 0/1, allow VLAN 20. Okay, that's for, there's no, okay. Then you say channel group 1 mode on. Okay, interface fast 0, 1. Switch to channel group 1 mode. Okay, so on mode. So both are on mode, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and both can carry VLAN 1, 2, and 20. But the Ethernet carry those, not the the port channel. See that?
Uh,
Okay, this is the port channel 1. This is configured correctly, but this one is different. You shouldn't include that. 1, 2, you have fast Ethernet, blah, 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 which is correct. And we have 20, switch mode trunk. Okay, so on 2, what do you see? Channel group 1 mode
desirable.
desirable.
Yeah, it's got to be on.
So does it have to be on? Yes. So interface fast Ethernet 02, switch trunk allow VLAN 20. I don't know why. Plus, you didn't need to configure this one as a trunk. What you need to figure as trunk is this, the interface port channel 1, you know? So that's what you need to do. Anyway. Okay, concrete misconfiguration to correct the issue. Mode on Ether channel is changed to desirable. Ether channel STP must be interpreted for this reason. The order in which channel range command is not good. So you're gonna say no internet interface port channel 1 to no means you need to cancel it. And you say interface range fast Ethernet 0/1 2. Okay, so you select these two interfaces. Then you group them into channel group 1 mode desirable. Okay, that's good. So now, no shutdown, exit. That's fine. Then you go to switch number uh, interface range FA. Okay, that's the no right here. You go interface range FS2, channel group 1, mode desirable, no shutdown, interface port channel 1, switch mode trunk. Okay, so okay, I see what happened here. See that? They canceled this because you didn't need to put the no interface because they canceled the no interface port channel. So they canceled. Then they selected the both fast Ethernet 0 and 2. Then they put those two physical ports on the channel group 1 and they put the mode desirable. Okay. Then they came over here in interface range 2, channel group. To me, that why they repeat all this stuff right here? They shouldn't. So they should done this one here. The group 1 mode desirable, no shutdown, interface port channel 1, and you switch it to trunk. So this is the better configuration on this section right here. Um, verify a channel operation. The Ether is now active as verified by the output of view Ether channel summary.
Mhm.
So you see active? Standby LCP only. Number of channel group in use is 1. Number of aggregations 1. Group per channel protocol. Okay, 1. The group 1. This is good. So we have the fast Ethernet 0/1, 0/2. Those the two ports participate in the channel. in the group. And the protocol I'm using is what? PAGP. The reason why, because we use desirable, remember? So that's basically why. Okay, I guess this is all about this one here. What we're gonna do tomorrow, I'm going to do some hands-on. We're gonna do both of them. We're gonna do LACP and PGP tomorrow, and we'll do the test Friday, right? For chapter 5 and 6. So on the skill test part, you're gonna do STP. So I'm gonna give you like bunch of switches, like maybe 3 switches or so, and you need to configure one of them to be root bridge. Okay. And I might give you 2 switches on the side of it and configure them as Ether channel. So I'll give you some example of what's going to be on the skill test tomorrow. So make sure you read the chapter, you have questions, and I think if you have a question, will be cleared out tomorrow when we do the hands-on.
Okay.
Now, any question about the test?
No, sir.
Test time is on like same time as this one here. I'm gonna give you maybe 1 hour or so, like more than 1 hour, 2 hours on the scale to do. So you're gonna have enough time to do both of them. Now, if you can do them with less time, that's plus. And please be careful when you do your skills. Make sure you update them on time. You submit them on time. And if you have a question during the due date, because I'm going to open the from 8 to, like, not from 8, from 9:25 till about maybe 12 or so.
Mr. Charif,
Yes.
hey, I wanted to mention something to you about the times for us to finish those tests. Typically, right after I get out of class, of our lectures, I go straight to work. So, last Friday I was basically late for
Well,
work.
why don't your work comes to you?
What's that, sir?
Why don't then let your work comes to you instead going to work?
I let my work come to me.
So you work from
I
home?
wish, I wish I work in the medical field, so it's difficult to do that. Sorry.
Ah, okay.
So I mean, if you can allow me to at least get the skill set portion done by the end of the day, that would be preferable, or at least until 7 o'clock that afternoon, because by the time I get home, it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I have at least an hour and a half afterwards to at least complete it within a timely manner. But I got chewed out because I was late last Friday.
Oh, okay. So what time is convenient to you after afternoon? From what time to what time?
So I get out of work at about 5. I'm home exactly at 5:30, and from 5:30 to 7 to 7:30, I'm able to knock that out for you. It's just that it just
So
puts me in the middle of a
anytime,
really time
okay.
crunch.
So maybe I can do the skill, let the skill done with everybody from 6 to 8 at night. That will be fair.
Yes,
And
if
everybody
everybody's okay,
agree.
if everybody else is okay with that.
Yeah. What do you think, everybody else?
Yeah, that's cool.
Anybody have the objection?
Yeah, I won't be on. I won't be able to. Not that late. I mean, if I can get it early in the day, that'd be perfect for me. But I mean, it's whatever. Whatever the majority of the class goes with, I'm fine with.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do it from 6 to 8, and just for you, if you have a problem, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you
Alright.
saying that you're not gonna make it available until 6?
Yeah, 6 to 8. If you have a problem, that's fine. We'll keep it like it is from 10 to. Let's keep it like the same thing from 10 to 12, and I'm gonna give Mr. Durus a special due date.
Thank
So
you.
this will be everybody will be on the same page.
Thank you.
So your activation is gonna be different. I'm gonna make it from 6 to 8. Okay, just for Mr. Deruso. And the rest of the class is gonna be from 9:25 till about 12. 12. Yeah, make it to 12 or 12:30. Let's make it 12:30. So I'll give you enough time to do the skills. Now, when you do the skill, they have a place in there you need to put. We'll talk about it tomorrow. You need to put your user profile in there. They start asking to put user profile. Oh, let me see if I have it somewhere. You see that little head right here with 2 arrows? So whenever you take your test, you go over here, you put your name instead of guest, and you put your email, and you say okay. Okay? For you to
Okay.
take the test. So you go right here on the head with 2 arrows, you put your name, and you say okay. So we'll talk about it tomorrow too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any question beside that? If you don't
No,
have any
sir.
question, I will see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Have a nice day or the rest of the day.